Did you know you're wasting your time at the gym? That's right. If you're only doing exercises with light weights, your results are being compromised. And if you think that heavy weights are only for the most advanced,
Nope.
it's time to think again. The truth is that the secret to a stronger, more defined body with fast results is heavy weights. But that's not all. If you don't change your strategy now, your progress will stagnate. Are you ready to push yourself beyond what you think is your limit? Are you ready to discover how heavy weights can transform your workouts and accelerate your results? Then stay with me and find out what you've been missing. Have you ever wondered why your results at the gym aren't improving no matter how much effort you put in? You follow your routine, stay consistent, and yet the progress just isn't there. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. The truth is, many people unknowingly sabotage their gains simply by choosing the wrong type of weight for their workouts. A common misconception is that lifting heavy weights is only for bodybuilders or elite athletes, while lighter weights are better for toning or endurance. But what if I told you that sticking only to light weights might actually be the reason your progress has stalled? It's not just about lifting. It's about understanding the right intensity, the right volume, and how your muscles respond to different types of resistance. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone lifting the same small dumbbells for months on end without any noticeable changes? That's because the body adapts over time, and without the right challenge, growth simply won't happen. On the other hand, going too heavy without proper technique can lead to burnout, poor form, or even injury. So, where's the balance? How do you know what's best for you? Today, I'm going to break down the real science behind lifting heavy versus light, debunk some of the biggest myths in the fitness world, and show you exactly how to optimize your training for maximum results. Whether your goal is strength, muscle definition, or just overall better performance, this information will change the way you train forever. Are you ready to uncover what's missing in your workouts and finally take your progress to the next level? Then stick around, because you might be closer to your fitness breakthrough than you think. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any exclusive content that will help you level up your results. Let's crush those fitness goals together. We can apply the concept of light and heavy loads to the discussion of volume versus intensity in training. This debate has been ongoing for decades, shaping the way athletes and bodybuilders approach their workouts. Back in the day, bodybuilding icon Arnold Schwarzenegger was a strong advocate for high-volume workouts, performing multiple sets of high repetitions for each muscle group. This method, popularized by Joe Weider, focused on maximizing time under tension and overall workload, leading to significant muscle hypertrophy. On the other hand, other elite athletes, such as six-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates, championed a different philosophy: high-intensity, low-volume training. This approach prioritized lifting heavier loads with fewer repetitions, emphasizing maximal muscle stimulation in a shorter period. Yates's method was all about pushing the muscles to their absolute limit in each session, leading to deep muscle fiber recruitment and faster recovery times between workouts. The question is, which approach is superior? Should you be doing countless repetitions with moderate weights, or should you focus on lifting as heavy as possible for fewer reps? The truth is, both methods have their merits, and the best choice depends on factors like your fitness level, goals, and recovery capacity. To answer this question properly, we first need to break down a few essential concepts, including muscle adaptation, progressive overload, and the relationship between volume and intensity. While both camps aim for the same goal, muscle growth and strength development, they often speak different training languages and, as a result, misunderstand each other's strategies. Instead of seeing them as opposing forces, perhaps the key lies in combining the best aspects of both. Weight training, or resistance training as it is known in academia, is basically the act of lifting weights against gravity. When you apply a controlled load to your muscles, the process of hypertrophy occurs. However, the main factor for hypertrophy is not muscle damage itself, but rather mechanotransduction. When the applied load generates sufficient tension in the muscles, mechanical sensors present in the muscle fibers detect this tension and send signals to the body to begin the process of muscle growth. This process, known as mechanotransduction, is crucial for stimulating hypertrophy and increasing muscular strength. However, simply lifting heavier weights does not automatically guarantee better results. In other words, yes, the load is essential, but that does not mean that heavier workouts are always better. If the load is excessive and compromises form, it can lead to improper movement patterns, reducing muscle activation and increasing the risk of injury. Additionally, recovery plays a huge role in muscle growth. Training with excessively heavy weights too frequently can overload the central nervous system, impair recovery, and even lead to overtraining. This is why finding the right balance between intensity, volume, and recovery is key. For optimal muscle growth, it's not just about lifting heavier, but also about managing training variables effectively, ensuring progressive overload while allowing adequate time for the muscles to repair and grow stronger. First of all, it's important to understand what a heavy load actually means. This varies from person to person, as what is light for one person may be heavy for another, depending on their training experience and body type. In a scientific context, load is used as a measure of intensity. There are several ways to quantify this, but the most common is the percentage of 1 RM, which is the maximum amount of weight a person can lift in a single repetition. For example, if you use 80% of your 1 rep max, this usually corresponds to a number of repetitions between 1 and 8. However, there's no point in bench pressing 100 kilograms and trying to do 8 repetitions if you can do 15 or even 20 repetitions with that weight. The key here is not light load versus heavy load, but rather what percentage of your 1 RM to use to reach your desired number of repetitions. A great example of how heavy loads are applied in training is powerlifting. In this sport, athletes focus on maximizing their 1 RM in 3 fundamental lifts: squat, bench press, and deadlift. Powerlifters typically train with loads close to or above 85% of their 1 rep max, performing low repetitions with long rest periods to build maximal strength. Unlike bodybuilding, which often incorporates moderate loads with higher repetitions for hypertrophy, powerlifting is centered around neuromuscular efficiency, explosive strength, and proper technique to lift the heaviest possible weight. This demonstrates that heavy is relative to the goal, whether it's increasing absolute strength, muscle growth, or endurance. Several studies have shown that both light and heavy weight training can promote hypertrophy, as long as the weight is challenging enough for the number of repetitions performed. A 2012 study by Phillips found that both training with 30% of 1 RM higher repetitions and 80% of 1 RM lower repetitions led to similar muscle growth. However, this study has been criticized for using beginners, who typically perform well with any type of new stimulus. In a more recent study conducted in 2016 with more experienced individuals, the results between the two groups were similar, but the group using light weights had to perform many more repetitions to achieve the same effect. The key point here is that when working with light weights, a much higher volume of repetitions is required to generate an effective stimulus, which may not be as feasible or practical in the long term. Research also indicates that when the load used is extremely light, below 20 to 30% of the 1 rep maximum, the potential for hypertrophy decreases considerably. This means that training with excessively light loads does not really produce significant results. The problem with training with very low loads is that, in order to obtain sufficient muscular stimulation, it would be necessary to perform an excessive volume of repetitions, which ends up making the process less efficient and, in many cases, difficult to sustain in the long term. In addition, when using very light loads, you are not adequately stimulating the deepest and strongest muscle fibers, those responsible for the greatest muscle growth. This results in an inadequate stimulus to promote hypertrophy, and, even with a high volume, the muscles do not receive the necessary tension to develop optimally. Therefore, it is essential to find the right balance between load and volume so that the training is efficient and truly promotes the desired gains. So what's the bottom line? Focusing solely on heavy loads with low reps can result in low-volume training and an increase in the amount of time you spend in the gym. Additionally, this type of training can be uncomfortable, increasing the risk of overtraining and putting too much strain on your joints. On the other hand, training with light loads and high reps tends to generate a weak stimulus without eliciting a significant adaptive response. The key is to combine the two training methods. Using moderate loads, around 80% of your 1 rep max, with a balanced volume of reps is the most efficient and practical approach to achieving hypertrophy. You can start with compound exercises, using heavier loads and fewer reps, and finish with isolation exercises, doing more reps with a moderate load, to optimize results. Now that you've learned how to balance your loads and optimize your workouts to achieve real results, it's time to put it all into practice. If you're committed to your progress and want to continue receiving the best tips, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. This way, you'll stay up to date with all the exclusive content we've prepared to help you achieve your goals more efficiently. We're on this journey together towards your best results. Let's make it happen.